What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of ChaseOff's. I'm Chase, and I'm about to go off on a game called Noita. If any of you guys are like me, you probably had a computer typing class in your elementary school days where, sit down, type on your Mavis Beacon typing simulator games, And if you're also like me, you probably just tabbed out of those games every so often, like when the teacher started sitting down and loaded up some Flash games, because those are more fun than typing out what item you're ringing up on at a cashier booth. Those games were fun, honestly. I remember one of the games I used to play the most was like a Falling Sands type of game. Like, like everything was like these little particles that would fall down and it would all react as it would, like sand, basically. You can make sand, dirt, oil, stuff like that, and it would like flow down like little paths that you make. I remember making like castles and dungeons that would fill up with sand or oil and pretending like there's people on the inside that need to get out or whatever. It was the most we can do back in a time where I still had to save my typing progress on floppy disk. Jeez. Let's just get straight into it. Noita is a procedurally generated roguelite platformer where every pixel is physically simulated. So basically what that means is every time you play, you get one shot in a world that is randomly generated for that one life. When you die, you begin a new world. Every pixel in this world that you'll see is physically simulated, meaning each and every one can be interacted with in its own way with its own physical properties. So wood burns, water will freeze, ice will turn into water, electricity will electrocute water, things like that. Blood from enemies can pool up, and that can cause different status effects. Along with that, bombs and different spells that you'll eventually get can have different effects on the world itself too. You can dig holes, blast holes in walls, different things like that. You're given full freedom in this ever-changing landscape. Now let's get into the core gameplay. There are 2 overall modes, well, granted 3 technically. A 4th one is in the works. The 3rd one is a nightmare mode, which admittedly I have 24 hours in the game so far and I still have not unlocked it because you have to beat the game. I'll talk about that later. But the 2 main modes are New Game and Daily Run. New Game starts you off with the same basic loadout, but the world itself is a random procedurally generated world. It'll be different every time you play, and every time you die you get a different world. Daily Run, on the other hand, gives you different startup wands, but it gives you the same world for that one day. Every player that plays gets the same exact seed, and every time you die, you get to retry at the same exact world. This gives you a chance to kind of learn this one dungeon for the day, and gives you a better chance at actually making it all the way through. Otherwise, the core gameplay mechanics remain the same, and there's no other differences between these 2 modes. Noita is a game that's all about exploring, and it gives you full creative authority. You just enter the dungeon, and you begin your search. The edges of the screen are darkened, so you can't really see where each path leads. Every level and every corner could have enemies in it, and it usually does. Every single enemy themselves as well are no less lethal than the last. I've been killed by fucking frogs before. As you explore deeper into the dungeon, you'll come across various different wands and flasks along the way. You can only carry up to 4 wands and flasks at a time, but the differences between these wands are completely up to you. In between every level, you are allowed to change the different effects and spells that are equipped to each wand. And there are hundreds of spells, literally 200 plus spells that you can find throughout the world. And how you set them on the wand is completely up to you. You have full creative authority to change the weapons in the game themselves. Every wand that you come across in the game has its own attributes and effects. Some wands have a higher recharge rate, some wands have more spell slots, things like that. Along with that, there are various flasks that come with different potions, each one having their own different status effects. Teleportanium is probably the most unstable and the most inconvenient at the worst times. If you get hit with it, you start teleporting at random points in the map. At one point, I got hit by Teleportanium, I went into the portal that takes you to the in-between world, and then I got teleported directly out of that into the next level before I was able to get any health back or buy any new spells. Super annoying, but very interesting gameplay. Enemies in the world are also affected by that spell as well, so if they touch the teleportanium, they teleport everywhere as well. It's hilarious, but also incredibly chaotic. As I mentioned earlier, in between levels there's a small area where you can use some of the gold that you find in the level to buy different spells and wands and abilities like that. Before you leave off to the next area, you're allowed to pick one new skill. Each of these skills are different passive effects that linger on you. Things like, I don't know, tentacles that sprout out from your back that do melee damage to enemies that are close to you. You can be granted immunity from melee damage. There's various different gameplay changing effects that almost force you to play the game different every time you play as well. If you play long enough, you could probably find one way that works best for you, but you can't guarantee you're going to find all the best things that'll help you with that gameplay. You basically have to improvise almost every single time you play, and it's that much more exciting because of it. One of my playthroughs, I found 2 shields, and I was just running through all the enemies that actually shot at me. Bullets were bouncing off of me, they were hitting other enemies, it was great fun. I felt totally invincible until I got to a point where all the enemies were just melee enemies. And then I think the very next round I found immunity against melee enemies, but I got completely fucked over by enemies with guns. That being said, you're gonna die a lot, and this game has a very, very steep difficulty curve. But in all honesty, none of my deaths really felt unfair. Not all of them, at least. Most of the times I died, I found myself kind of just laughing that I got myself in a situation that just felt stupid to begin with. I don't really find myself blaming the game for a lot of my deaths. I found myself blaming myself for the way that I went about things. I found myself just being overly cocky and jumping in and then just getting totally fucked over and just laughing because, wow, how stupid, why would I just jump in? There was only a few times where I felt like, oh my god, that was so stupid. One of them was that teleportanium thing, but again, the enemy just had that. It totally made sense that that would happen because the enemies can also pick up wands or flasks and use them against you. So, they used it against me, but it didn't feel like that much bullshit. I mean, it was bullshit, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel that much because it's a thing that can just actually happen in the game. And honestly, just playing through Daily Run really does cut down the difficulty to a slight degree because now you can learn the dungeon as you go. Every time you die, you learn the path. You learn where the enemies are, so that does give you that advantage. I think regular new game is probably the harder way to go because you don't get the advantage of learning the layout. You go in brand new every single time. And also, just because I want to come back to it, the wands and the abilities are fucking awesome. Really, the combat in this game feels good. It's super quick, enemies will crowd you, and a lot will happen all at once, but it is just amplified by the different particle effects that are going on. The pixels are just exploding everywhere. Different enemies are lighting things on fire, they're melting, they're exploding, you're jumping left and right. All the spells and the abilities that you have stacked up are just affecting the entire world. The action is just so awesome in this game. It's really fun to just watch things explode. Enemies will even start fighting each other if they hit each other on accident, and shit will just go off. And the blood in this game is done really well too. The pixel effects of watching the blood pool or like drip down cliffs is really awesome. And it is kind of gory. You can cut things in half and watch their bits fly around. It's really fun, I gotta say. And if this game wasn't endless enough, they've added the workshop. So endless just became endlesser. Like now people are adding in more spells, different skills, different things like that. Like this game is just growing. In fact, it's actually going to be really, taken off of early access coming up soon. I don't remember the exact date, but it will be coming out soon. They are raising the price for when it does come out of early access, so just keep in mind. But right now, full price, I believe, was $18. So after early access, I can't imagine it bumping up to like more than $25 at most. It's 100% worth it. But on top of that too, I do want to say like this game was made by a team of just 3 men. 3 individual people from different, if I'm not mistaken, they're from different developers. They just came together to work on this one game. And with that being said, I really, really want to put more of a focus and recommend you guys to continue checking out like indie developed games. You know, these are small groups of people, not big publishers, not big developers with lots of money. These are just individual people with a dream that they want to make, and then the passion to make it, and the drive to make it. I can't imagine how much work went into making a game where every little bit, every little pixel that you see is its own thing and reacts its own way, you know? That must have taken forever. But, yeah, this game has more detail than most AAA title games that have come out in the last few years. I 100% recommend that you guys check out Noita, and just check out other indie developed games. You never know which little gems you're going to come across that you never would have otherwise. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I've been Chase, and I'm out. I've been Chase. I am no longer Chase anymore. I have been Chase.